to Cage View Sports. We have a great night of fights, a UFC 310. But in this video, I'm going to be shedding a light on the main event between Japanese superstar Kai Asakura and well-rounded champion Alexandre Pantoja. But before we get into the breakdown, let's take a look at the tail of the tape. Looking at the tail of the tape, Kai Asakura is the younger man by 3 years, has a 3-inch height advantage and a 2-inch reach advantage. Both of these fighters are orthodox, so let's get into the strengths and weaknesses of both the champion and challenger. Starting off with the challenger, Japanese sensation, Kai Asakura. The main focal points of Kai Asakura's game is his great cardio and his great takedown defense. He sprawls very well on takedowns and circles well as well. Also, his tenacity and just how much pressure he puts on opponents. He really walks them down and lands power shots and make them have to get into a fight with him, which tend to normally end up in brawls, which he normally comes out on the winning side of. Due to his ridiculous power, which he's shown in past fights, such as his fights against Kyoji Horiguchi, who is one of the best Japanese fighters of all time and probably one of the best lower weight fighters outside the UFC. Kai Asakura also does a great job of mixing up his shot selection on the feet from the head to the body with his boxing combination. This paired with Kai Asakura's great counters on the back foot when he utilizes his footwork to set up his check hook and his straight make him a very deadly puzzle to solve for his opponents. Lastly, Kai Asakura has an absolutely lethal knee to the body, which is used to finish several opponents, and I believe it can also work very well against Pantoja, as he really does like to crash in his fights and land combinations. He has shown this vicious knee in fights such as his most recent fight against Juan Archuleta, where he caught Juan Archuleta with a counter knee and subsequent punches on the ground. Now let's move on to the weaknesses. First and foremost, it's important to note that Kai Asakura is coming from Japan, and in Japan they compete in a ring opposed to an octagon cage in the UFC. This is going to be a big deal because it may affect the way that Kai Asakura can defend takedowns. I believe his takedowns in open space with his sprawls and whizzers are going to still be really good. However, he may struggle to stop takedowns against the cage. This is because in a ring, the ropes are not a set hard surface. Oftentimes when you see a fighter in on a double leg and they are against the ropes, you'll see a crew member grab a little string in between the ropes to pull and give the fighter some slack and some space to move around. A lot of Japanese fighters are very good at using this to get leverage and also at using the space in between the ropes to really mess with the grip of their opponent who is in on the takedown. These are just not techniques that are viable in a cage and work very differently. If you try to do this in a cage, the cage does not have as much give and you will square up your feet and leave yourself open to be taken down, as shown in this next clip. Take a note of where Kai Asakura's feet are and his legs. In a cage, if he were to do this, he would end up hipping into his opponent, and then they would just be able to pick him up and dump him on the ground, securing an easy takedown. Another big weakness I think Kai Asakura has that will give him trouble against Alexandre Pantoja is that Asakura likes to use his footwork to set up his counters while on the back foot, but when he does throw his counters, they're very singular. It's only a check lead looping hook or a straight, and against someone like Alexandre Pantoja, who has such a great chin and has only really been dropped by Davis Figueiredo, who is one of the hardest punchers in flyweight history, it's going to take more than one punch to put him out. And I could see that singular attack getting countered by the blitzing and the overwhelming pressure and combinations that Pantoja throws. With that, also, we have seen Kai Asakura get KO'd in the past, and when he initiates these brawls, his defense is heavily reliant on his chin. And like I said before, I just think when it comes down to who has the better chin, it just slightly leans towards Alexandre Pantoja. Also, given Kai Asakura's boxing heavy style and his heaviness on the lead leg, I could see him struggling with the leg kicks of Pantoja, as they both are in the same stance, both being orthodox fighters, and Pantoja does really favor that leg kick, as we've seen him use it multiple times in past fights. Now let's move on to the strengths and weaknesses of the current sitting flyweight champion, Alexandre Pantoja. His strengths lie in his well-rounded skill set, his chin, tenacity, and his pressure. He oftentimes moves forward and is not deterred. And in particular, what makes him dangerous for Kai Asakura is his grappling and his chain wrestling. Although Kai Asakura has faced wrestlers in the past, they do not wrestle and grapple to the same way as Alexandre Pantoja does it. Most of those guys, like Juan Archuleta and Kyoji Horiguchi, when they wrestle and do not get secure a takedown or get the takedown, they oftentimes will settle for a reset and look to set up a takedown in the future. With Alexandre Pantoja, once he gets your leg, he is like a dog with a bone. He will not be deterred. He will not let up until he does drag you to the ground. He will oftentimes shoot a single leg, transition to a body lock, and then try to drag you down and take your back. And all of these things, I think, could spell possible trouble for Kai Asakura, especially if Alexandre Pantoja is able to drag Kai Asakura down and get his back and set up for that rear naked choke. Pantoja, early in the second round of his fight with Steve Erceg, was able to land a beautiful combination where he threw a jab and grabbed the rear hand of Erceg and pulled it down to line up a powerful straight right. And I think this combination can work against Kai Asakura because of his singular countering style and how he loves to look for the check hook and use the rear hand to parry. So let me know in the comments below who you think is going to win this fight. Let's really get a conversation going. Like, comment, subscribe, and I really hope to see you in my future uploads on Cage View Sports. Have a great night. Goodbye.